Hello guys. Um today for wait, hold up. Hello guys. My name is Anna
My name's Alondra.
My name's Jeff.
My name's Samantha.
and today I'll be your host. So today's episode, for episode 4, we'll be talking about why learning students' name is important. All of like the stuff I'm going to be talking about is all based on the article I read, which is what the name is Teachers Please Learn Our Name, written by Rita Colley and Daniel Solorzano. Basically, in the article, they stated and wanted the audience, specifically educators, to be aware how important it is to value and respect the name that students. Every name has a name, has a name. Every name has a meaning to it. Yet sometimes it can be taken as a joke, which can lead the students to be less confident of themselves and their cultural background. So for the first question, I'd like to start with is why important to learn our students' name.
I think, um, you know, I, our name is like who we are. That's how we I identify ourselves. So to not learn somebody's name is pretty disrespectful towards them, and it just kind of shows that you don't actually care about them and how they identify themselves.
Yeah, and I think it's very important because sometimes it's like some students even carry like family names or like names that are very meaningful to their parents. And for me, during this LST course actually for my racial autobiography, I included how like my last name was butchered a lot in during my years, especially starting off in elementary. So I kind of got that fear. And I started to Americanize my last name because my name is Alondra Abigail Urraco. But I started saying it like Alondra Urraco, like trying to make it simpler and easier for teachers to say it. And I remember I was in elementary school and I would see teachers kind of like their eyes traveling down the roster and then they would stop and hesitate. And I knew it was me because like I knew the last name of the person before me and like the letter. And so I was just like, yep, it's me. And then they would be like, oh, I don't know how to pronounce this, Alondra. And then I'd be like, yep, that's me. And I would kind of be embarrassed because I was like, damn, like my name is that hard to pronounce. Like my name shouldn't be. But honestly, I feel like no student should have to go through that, especially in elementary school, because it's like you're carrying your family's last name, you're carrying your family. So it's like you should never be ashamed or embarrassed of that. And as educators, we should do our best. Like, if you really don't know how to pronounce a name, just ask. Like, I remember I had an African American teacher, and there was this girl in my class, and her name was Viridiana. And for our African American teacher, it was a little hard for her. So she would tell her, like, how do you say it? And she would say, Viridiana. And she would say, I'm sorry, but the best I can do is Very Diana. And Viridiana was like very appreciative of that because like teachers are making an effort and we as teachers should also make an effort.
Yes, like what you said, it is important because basically, like leading to our second questions, what are the downfall of renaming our students? Is that sometimes when teachers don't put like effort into like learning the name, they like what is it that name? They like rename. But like what your teacher did, I think like it's important to like learn the names, you know? And also want to ask um Sam, like why do you think there's another like a downfall for renaming students instead of learning like or pronouncing like trying to pronounce like their native name?
Well, in the act of renaming a student, it almost makes them feel as if something's wrong with them, as if there's some kind of like outsider that needs to be fixed. So this can really play into the student's self-esteem when the classroom should be an environment where all students should be valued so that they can just prioritize learning and you know creating this environment where they can continue to learn throughout the year.
Yes, and also I want to share a story what I seen in the article. So basically, when I was reading the article, I came across um this one student what he experienced. So basically, one student was renamed as Frank because the teacher didn't want to put himself in quote unquote stress to learn or pronounce the name, which then lead other students call him by his renamed name. The new name Frank was also carried for the rest of his school year. Even when he started college, he would introduce himself as Frank, all because of that one teacher. Incidents happen like this because living in America leads to adopting a native name, which is Americanized, so it can be easier to understand. And also, I want to ask Jeff, like, what do you think, like, like stuff like this, like, what can we like prevent to like for these type of situations to stop?
I mean, I think if you have a name and a teacher mispronounces it, then just tell them how you are supposed to say it. And if you're a teacher, and you don't know how to pronounce somebody's name, then just ask them and pronounce it correctly.
Oh, Alondra, would you like to add on to anything?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
What are things that we can do to prevent these type of situations?
I would say, like I said before, really just ask the student. Like, there's not a big deal in asking. Um, if you feel like you can't say that or you're stumped, just ask because it's worse for you to attempt and for you to like embarrass that student than for you to just ask and get clarification on how to say something. And then also, I feel like just don't Americanize any names. If you see a student and I think, on our first day actually of college or our second, I'm not sure, but in this course, Professor Navarro asked us like to say our names, to introduce ourselves, because you could read my name and you could read it in two ways. You could say Alondra or you can say Alondra. But if you hear the way that I'm saying it, it's because that's the way that I want it to be said. And so I think it's very important just that students introduce themselves to you and just ask if you ever have any questions to avoid situations like that.
Yes, just like what you said, our professor, which is a really great professor, because I think he's the first professor who acts because I go by like Anna, Anna, or Anna, and he asked me which one do I feel more comfortable of him like calling me, and it's just like, and I think that's like what's important, like what we're talking about today's episode, and yeah. And also to lead on to our last question. So our last question is it okay? Was there a time where you felt ashamed, embarrassed of your name or being Americanized? And to start this off, I would like to say my story. So to pronounce my name in Tongan, it will be Anavea. Though my name is basic or I claim to be easy to pronounce, reading the article that I mentioned earlier this episode also brought out something I've encountered wishing I had a different last name. All happened in middle school in seventh grade because majority of my middle school was Hispanic. Um, I think this is why why I'm telling you guys this story. So basically, it all brought back because of one little joke that my peers made. It was happening in lunch, and then they were asking me like, what is your last name? And I said, Val. And then I just heard like giggling and stuff. And then I heard Val. And then I was like, and then I was just like, what? What are they laughing at? And then when I asked them, they're like, oh, nothing. And then I told my best friend who is Hispanic as well. And she told me the meaning, Val means ugly. And because of that, I felt like very embarrassed of my name. And then ever since that, I would find another way or the white way whenever someone asks to pronounce it. So whenever, like, ever since that happened, instead of Val, I just say, oh, my name is Anna Via. My name is Anna Vea. So, and like after like a few years later, I realized that it doesn't matter because the name I carry not only represents me, but my ancestors of hardworking people where their first priorities in life were God, family, respect, the Tongan culture, and love. So now, like we're like living like now, like it made me realize like I'm not gonna take one little joke take over me just because of that. So now I just love saying my name. Yeah. And would anyone else like to tell their stories?
Yeah, I really just want to say, I think this is one of the most heartfelt episodes that we've done as of right now, and I'm really sorry that that happened to you, but I feel like that's one of the main reasons why we should have ethnic studies so that a lot more people could be educated on things like that because it's not right. For me, it was my last name, um, like I said, I tried to Americanize it, and so there was this one assistant principal. Her name was Miss Dabbs. I'm gonna call her out now. And she was in my elementary school. And so we were getting certificates for like high honor because we were about to culminate sixth grade. And she couldn't say Uraco, so she said Uraco. And a lot of the students after were kind of saying how like my name in English sounds like you're saying you're a cow. And I was just like, oh, like, because when you're still young, you don't know what to do and you really don't know how to defend yourself. So you kind of just feel bad about it. And you think, how can I avoid putting myself in this situation? But like you said, you know what your ancestors carried, and now you carry those beliefs as well. And for me, that's kind of like what I thought about. And the sad thing is, I didn't really think about this until college on the day that our professor showed us that video. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy how one small event can literally traumatize a child for the rest of their lives with something as simple as their name. And our name shouldn't be something that we're embarrassed or ashamed about.
Yes, and thank you for sharing your story. Like I feel like we both could like relate to something like that too. And I also want to add on a quote like what the article said. It quote unquote it says young children often do not have the tools to defend themselves or stand strong against slights against their culture. And I think like yeah, this is like a very powerful quote because like a lot of like students they basically in elementary it's like their introduction to like to everything. So I think like if you guys know what I mean, like if Sam, if you want to like elaborate on that too.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh, can you elaborate the quote? Young children often do not have the tools to defend themselves or stand strong against slights against their culture.
Well, yeah, I think it's really um, just experience over time where students will know like what's okay for for other people to refer to them as. Um, Also, I feel like it has to do with self-esteem a lot of the time. Some people just to fit in, like they won't like object to the way that they're treated. So I think it's just really important to like teach students to have pride in their identities, to not feel ashamed of who they are, and over time they'll learn to advocate for themselves.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think what you said basically closed off for today's episode. Thank you everybody for taking your time to listen in, and for those who are educators, I ask if you can please like listen in deeply at how important it is for you to learn students' names. And so stay tuned in for the next episode, which is a wrap up for episode 5. And thank you for joining us today. Goodbye.